In an interview in April of 2018, before Berkshire Hathaway annual shareholder meeting, Warren Buffett spoke highly about the Chinese economy. What they've done in the last 50 or 60 years is a total economic miracle. I've never would have thought it could happen, Buffett told Yahoo Finance. What I do know is they have found a secret sauce for themselves, just like we found the secret sauce a couple centuries ago. So what is the secret sauce about the Chinese economy? I will explain to you. Today, let's take a macroeconomics view of China and the United States economies to understand their size as well as the gap between these two. We will look into the GDP numbers to understand the complex nature of each economy. There is an interesting debate when China will take over the United States, become the world's biggest economy. It is interesting to Chinese because they have been waiting for centuries to reclaim the number one. For Americans, there might be a little pessimism associated with Slytherin's glories and dominance. Some say that by 2020, China will become the world's number one economy. However, that was based on China can maintain 10% GDP growth year after year. We all know in the last few years, Chinese economy growth slowed down to 8%, 7%, and 6.5% projected in 2018. Meanwhile, American economy is gathering momentum. It could reach 3% this year, even maintain this rate for many years. Given the size of the American economy, this is very solid growth. So the date when China replaced America has been postponed indefinitely. To answer the question when China will grow bigger than the United States, we needed to understand the gap between these two at the moment. The simplest way is to find out the GDP numbers. In the 2017 GDP ranking, according to World Monetary Fund, the United States was 19 trillion, number one. China was 12 trillion, number two. And the number three, Japan, was only 4.8 trillion. As you can see, in this world, only China and the United States are playing in the same league. Meanwhile, the gap is still huge, $7 trillion. That's more than two traditional global powers, Great Britain and France GDP combined. Still not enough. We needed to add Indian GDP to it. Well, if we look at the GDP at the per capita level, the United States GDP will crush Chinese numbers in all categories. Per capita GDP, China is only 1/7 of the United States. But don't forget that Chinese work harder. They work long hours. It is common that young people from 20 to 40s work 6 days a week, and the percentage of people participating in labor is higher than the United States. This leads to Chinese productivity is even lower, 1/12 of the United States. Other important numbers such as education 1/10, private consumption 1/14, and healthcare 1/22. We will come back to healthcare later. The question here is whether those numbers reflect the reality. So we needed to give those numbers a second thought and look into the characteristics of these two economies. Before we do that, let's do a quick Econ 101 review. There are four components of GDP: private consumption, private investment, government expenditures and investment, and the net export. For the United States, due to the huge trade deficit, and the net export is negative, which means this number should be deducted from the other three American output combined. We can understand in this way, our production is actually higher or bigger than the GDP numbers showed. According to the Wall Street Journal, 2017 United States trade deficit was $566 trillion. Another unique feature of the United States is issuing national debt is included into our GDP. In the meantime, economists claim that they are paying aspects of American GDP. What they mean paying are the economic activities that do not create much value, growth, and efficiency to the society. They could be counterproductive. Let me give you a few examples. In 2017, Americans paid 1 trillion legal fees. That's about 6% of the GDP. This is an astronomical number. Based on my personal experience, American legal system is sophisticated, yet the process is long and could be ineffective. In most cases, neither plaintiff nor defendant are happy with the system except the lawyers, because they make money. Now, let's come back to the healthcare. As the statistics mentioned before, average Americans spend 22.4 times more in healthcare than average Chinese. 22 times more. Does it generate 22 times more results? No. The average life expectancy for the United States is 78 versus China 76. And 78 years is in the low end among all advanced nations. Isn't this another proof that our healthcare system is way too expensive and inefficient? Finally, I wanted to point out the average American utility consumption is 7.5 times more than average Chinese person. Well, we have big houses and drive big cars. Of course, we would spend more on utilities. But based on my observation as an immigrant, the longer we live in the United States, the more we take things for granted. Much of the utilities are being wasted. We rarely turn off the light or AC when we leave the house or building. We don't even adjust the AC temperature according to seasonal changes. Many of us read a book or take a nap in the car with the engine running in a hot summer day. The dryer we use is a piece of utility consumption heavy machinery. There are a total of 88 million dryers in the United States. Today, together, they consume so much utility equal to the annual capacity of the Three Gorges Dam on Yangtze River in China, the biggest hydroelectric project in the world. I don't want to say all those utilities are being wasted. Dryer do bring some convenience in life. However, if we are thinking of preserve some energy and lower our utility bills, cut back dryer usage is a good start. Next, let me bring you back to the Chinese economy and the GDP. As I mentioned, it is far behind the United States. However, reality might give you a different opinion. For example, a big portion of Chinese economy is omitted from statistics. China has millions of small or tiny businesses, such as mom and pop shops sell breakfast or night market. They don't pay taxes, and many of them not even registered by the government. For the most part, government take blind eye on those things because they are good for employment. Well, we all know that Chinese love to save, they don't like to spend. This cause their per capita GDP is 1/7 of the United States. In the meantime, their consumption is only 1/14. However, in some aspects, China is closing in terms of consumption. Every 10,000 people, Chinese bought 203 personal vehicles. The United States is twice that number. Meat consumption. Annually, an average Chinese person consumes 59 kilos, and the United States is twice of that. In terms of vegetable consumption, Chinese is already the world's #1. Chinese government invests a lot of money into infrastructures, and this counts a huge portion of Chinese GDP. They built a lot of things such as airports, highways, and high-speed rails. The number spent is recorded as it year by year, but those kind of investments could generate return over 20 or 30, even 50 years. Just thinking about a highway built to connect a remote village used to take 2 days to reach, now only 45 minutes. Suddenly, the 50,000 people live in that village connected to the big China market or economy and even integrated into globalization. So we can say this portion of Chinese GDP has higher efficiency than those pan-American GDPs. China has millions of people just put out from poverty every year. Since 2012, the Chinese government claimed a total number of 10 million people put out of poverty. That is the population of New York City. Now, those people need to be leveraged into middle class. Thinking about the potential here. They all need better clothes, food, smartphones, computers, cars, service, and entertainment. Those people are the new frontiers for China, just like the Wild West for the United States in the 19th century. They can keep Chinese growth rate at a relatively high level for many years to come. This has been the secret sauce that Warren Buffett talking about. At this point, you might ask me, what is your answer to the question when China will take over the United States, become the biggest economy? To answer this question, we need to look back into the history. It was 1890s. It was the era when the United States was about to take over the Great Britain, become the world's biggest economy. Quote from Bloomberg View. China is now in a position similar to that of the United States at about the turn of the 20th century, a formidable superpower that just haven't yet felt any reason to exercise its dominance. Yes, it took the United States another 50 years till the end of the World War II to become the true leader of the world. So, my answer to this question is, it doesn't matter, let it be, because both countries have different focuses. For China, she might be one day outgrow the United States, but she should never focus on compete or replace the United States, become the big man on campus. Rather, to focus on how to collaborate with the United States and the rest of the world to become the second engine to propel this global economy. For the United States, we should focus on how to maintain our dominance in areas such as technology, innovation, research, higher education, and soft powers. Soft powers including culture and language. America should be the most vibrant society or country in the world for a long period of time. Especially, I wanted to point out the soft powers. 70 years after Great Britain passed the baton of world leadership to the United States, the BBC is still the most influential news and media outlet in the world. And its content still has tremendous popularity all over the world. So, Warren Buffett's answer to this question when Chinese economy will outgrow the United States. His answer is China has almost 4 times of the population of the United States. If the people can reach their potential, it definitely will produce more than the United States. But it's a long way off, said Buffett. The main thing you have to do is unleash the potential of your people. That is true for both China and the United States. Thank you for watching.